Today on an all-new Dr. Phil. Behind the tragic headlines
I believe they knew their killer is not a stranger.
of the Bakersfield 3 mystery.
What have you uncovered but have not reported on as yet?
New revelations
We heard Bailey was pregnant at the time she went missing.
and new questions.
I've shared everything coming on this show.
I think that you know more than you think you do. Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you down.
Today is going to be a changing day in your life.
5, 4.
I am not giving up on you.
Yesterday, I sat down with Cheryl, Di, and Jane, who are caught up in a dark and complex mystery. Cheryl's son, Micah, had been missing for 2 weeks when Di's son, James, was shot and killed shortly after Jane's daughter, Bailey, disappeared in the same area. Now, not only do the three mothers believe their children's cases are all connected, but Di says her other son, Ryan, may know what happened to his brother because they were together the night he was killed.
It's a haunting mystery, the disappearance of Micah Holzenbake and Bailey Desbach.
And in between those two disappearances, a murder in a Bakersfield neighborhood, bringing up the question, is it three mysteries or one?
My son Micah has been missing for about 8.5 months.
The last place I saw him was right there in front of that dumpster.
The last day that I saw Micah was March 15th, 2018.
35-year-old Micah Holzenbake had been missing a week when 38-year-old James Kolstad was gunned down.
My son James was shot on April 8th at approximately 1:15 in the morning. We're on our way to where James spent the last few moments of his life. My son Steven drove me to the scene. I tried to go through the yellow caution tape and I was screaming, I need to get to my son. And then the policeman said that he'd expired.
About 2 weeks after James was murdered, Bailey disappeared. My daughter Bailey was 20 years old when she disappeared on April 25th, 2018. I believe that Bailey's disappearance, Micah's disappearance, and James's murder, they're all connected.
Once one of them is solved, I feel like all three will be solved.
What makes you think that this is all connected?
We've uncovered that they have all of their circle of acquaintances, all the same names were coming up.
Why do you think your son was shot?
I think he was set up. There was guns, drugs, counterfeiting.
Well, Di says one of her other sons was with James the night he was killed.
There was a big group of people standing around my brother. I literally just sat there and held him and told him, you know, I loved him. This is the hardest thing I've had to deal with.
You don't know who shot your brother?
No, and if I did, I don't even think I'd let the cops have their chance.
This guy has said out loud that he's going to call his boys that are going to come over strapped. And lo and behold, within an hour and a half, some people show up and shoot your brother.
Yeah.
That would seem to me to be a key starting point. You didn't cause your brother to get shot. Somebody else did this, and they need to pay for it, and you need to not protect them. Now, we're going to meet Di's granddaughter.
I was really close with my dad. The last time I saw him, he gave me a hug and said he loved me, and he didn't deserve to get killed.
Tell me what your biggest fear is at this point.
Honestly, to get killed or to have somebody else die in my family.
Everybody knows that the connections here were many. Micah was tied to Bailey.
Yes.
James and Ryan were both there that night. Bailey is also tied to this person, correct?
Yes. It can't be coincidence, can it?
This whole thing is so interrelated, it's just unbelievable. Now, our affiliate reporter from KGET TV, Olivia Lavois, has been covering this case for 6 months and says she believes there is a giant secret world of crime happening right in this nice area of Bakersfield. Olivia, thank you so much for being here. And also thank you for all of your work on this, because you've been really digging into this and looking at the details. Tell me about some of the things that you've uncovered but have not reported on as yet.
Well, one of the connections we've found between Bailey and Micah is that Bailey was actually arrested in front of Micah's home for drunken disorderly conduct. We know that they were friends. We know that they were also acquainted with people that we believe were potentially making and selling guns illegally. We also have heard claims that Bailey was pregnant at the time she went missing. I know that's something that everyone involved in this case would really, really like to have confirmed. And now, thankfully, we know that detectives finally have phone records for both Bailey and Micah. I think this is so significant for both cases. For Bailey's case, law enforcement has actually never released where she was last seen. While I can't speak for the detectives, Jane and I believe that that's quite possibly because they don't believe the story that they were given. So our hope is that the phone records are finally, they're either going to confirm suspicions that people aren't telling the truth, or they'll confirm that people are being truthful. Either way, we really think the phone records are, what detectives have needed this entire time.
What you're saying is it has been confirmed that Bailey was arrested right in front of Micah's place. So we know, again, these two are definitely connected. There's no question about that. These phone records can definitely show who they've been talking to right up to the end. And Ryan, this may, again, tighten this circle about who might be getting called, who might know something. And what is it you think that these two might have known or been privy to that would motivate someone to take their lives, to silence them in some way? Do you have any idea? Do you have, Olivia, have you uncovered anything that suggests what they would know that would be so devastating that they would need to be silenced in this way?
One of the things that makes this case so complex is, I could say myself, I've gotten so many different stories, so many different tips from an array of people. So it can be really tricky what to believe. You kind of have to look at everything and see, okay, what stories are overlapping. But something that myself and the mothers we have strongly considered is the possibility that Bailey knew what happened to Micah, and that made her a liability of sorts, that she had that information.
But what was the motivation for Micah? I mean, that's what you've got to be wondering, if they knew something about what happened that night with your brother.
Micah disappeared first.
Yeah.
He disappeared. We believe that Micah either owed people money. We've been told that story among, like Olivia says, many different stories we've heard and we've taken notes on. He either owed people money, which is, could be, maybe not. What my family believes is that he was behaving so erratically and acting so unlike himself and being so vocal about things that were going on, some of the things he participated in and some of the things he did not and wanted to shut down. And I think he's just started blabbing his mouth and got himself heard.
He is a violent guy and is responsible for the disappearance of these two young people and likely murdered them. And he's up at the top of this criminal enterprise.
And later, Candace, Steve, do you believe that this family may in fact be in danger? Weighing in with their expertise, I've asked some real trusted experts of mine to be here today. Former police detective Steve Cardian and former FBI profiler Candace DeLong. She believes Micah, James, and Bailey took for granted they were safe, but they were actually in the presence of a psychopath and became victims of a crime. So, Steve, Candace, thank you two for being here, first off. I really appreciate your expertise. You two have been so helpful in the past. What do you think about everything you've heard and everything you've studied about this case so far?
There's a connection between the two missing people and James, whom we know was murdered. They knew, they ran in the same circles. They knew some of the other parties involved, and those other parties were involved in criminal behavior, gun running, illegal gun sales, and drug sales, and drug usage on the part of some of them. The drug world is a very volatile, violent world where disputes are frequently settled with a bullet or worse. Whoever, if these body parts are determined to be DNA related to the family, what concerns me about that as a profiler is not only were they murdered, they were dismembered and discarded. That was something that was probably done in private. That's not something you do. It's a vastly different method of dealing with someone than a drive-by shooting where a lot of people could have been witnesses. It's possible also with drive-by shootings, you don't know who's going to get shot and they may not die. So it's almost like I see there may be two different murderers, but one person at least was involved in the murder. The two people that Micah and Bailey disappeared, I believe one person did that crime, is responsible for their disappearance. And a different person did the drive-by shooting, but with the knowledge of the person that's responsible. Mm-hmm. I'm going to call him the boss type, the killer. And I think he's a white male, 35 to 45 years old, probably lives in a marital situation, or it lives with a woman, may even have children. He is a violent guy, and people know that. He's a scary guy. He's also smart and dangerous. When the police arrest him, he'll probably be wearing jeans and a t-shirt. He drives a macho car or macho vehicle, and I think he's probably pretty scared right now. If he sees this show, he may relocate because he knows what he's done. And now there's a Dr. Phil show on pointing his direction.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're talking about the boss that's directing this.
I believe so, yes.
Is the motive likely to silence these people? Were they starting to be dangerous to the overall enterprise?
Micah was, as you mentioned, starting to have mental problems, probably from the excessive drug use over the years, had become paranoid. When people are truly paranoid, they can be dangerous because they truly believe someone's out to kill them. They frequently arm themselves. They make threats to kill other people. They're terribly frightened. That may be at the root of the person's motivation that killed or caused his disappearance. And I believe Bailey was aware of what happened to Micah and who did it. And that made her have red concentric circles painted right on her.
Yeah. Steve, what do you add to this?
People kill for generally two reasons: money and love. Narcotics and gun running involve a lot of money. I think what happened to James was likely prompted by someone at that house that may be related to one of the people you have listed up there. Now, Bailey and Micah were killed, I believe, by someone that you have listed up there, either killed or facilitated, and someone very close to them.
You think it's unlikely that they have survived?
I don't believe that they have survived, and I'm very sad, very sorry.
And I believe they knew their killer is not a stranger.
And I think if they locate, if they do the DNA, the location, or the finding of the body parts in the lake, I think that will enhance the investigation.
Well, what the police department told us next when we come back.
From the moment I reported Bailey missing, I knew something bad had happened to her. They think she's dead.
And later,
I see that as a threat, a message, and now I understand why you're frightened.
Right down here is Bailey's room. This was her favorite stuffed animal. When I get upset, I'll come in here and I'll grab her blanket. She was such a beautiful girl. That's the Bailey I remember.
Micah's disappearance has become our worst nightmare. I'm very anxious and depressed. I'm just tired of it all.
My life is consumed with this. I look up all social media at persons of interest. I have insomnia. As he's gone, we're finding that he was part of the glue in our family. I miss him every moment, every second of every day.
Cheryl says she believes her son Micah was killed because he was a loose cannon who became a liability in an alleged crime ring. You know, Jane, Cheryl, you just heard from what I believe to be two of the best criminal analyst minds in the country. What do you think about what Candy and Steve have to say here?
Knowing Micah and knowing who he is and how he stayed so connected throughout his life. I mean, this is just the last few years of his life. Throughout his life, he would stay in constant contact with me, his dad, his brother, his friends, his family, people he went to school with, people he was in the Navy with. He had, 500 best friends. He was just very well liked and it's just could very much like James would just light up a room and want to be the center of attention and loved karaoke and all of these things. And he was never not on his phone. And for him to go completely silent is completely out of character for him. And that, interestingly enough, is how my husband and I and his brother, that's how we've kind of come to terms with the fact that Micah would not do this to us. He would not leave us hanging if he were somewhere sitting on a beach having,
So you've concluded that sadly he probably isn't no longer with us. Jane, what do you think about what they've had to say?
From the moment I reported Bailey missing, I knew that something bad had happened to her. I was told she was maybe put into sex trafficking to keep quiet, or that she was, or saw something she wasn't supposed to, and knew about it and wanted out, and they couldn't let her out. So, for a while, out of the two choices, I would, maybe they'll find her and, she's sex trafficking, we can find her and fix her. But that doesn't seem to be the case. They don't think. They think she's dead.
Micah told us that he knew sex trafficking was going on. He had already helped one person, an individual who our family knows, get out of that. And I think Bailey knew that he was someone who she could call and get help
she
from.
Would call him for help. He would send a car for her.
And that was the thing he could not make peace with that. You know, these other things were nefarious and he knew he shouldn't be involved in them, but that was the clicker, and we asked him to go to the police. He told us these things.
Well, Candace, Steve, do you believe that this family may in fact be in danger?
Keeping this information and not sharing with the police is probably not going to help you.
For people to even think that I would know something and not give out the information, this is the hardest thing that I've ever had to deal with.
I think that you know more than you think you do. Well, Candace, Steve, do you believe that this family may in fact be in danger?
I would have to know more. If anyone, I think it would be you. I think you're safe. Unless there's something you're not telling us.
You're talking to Ryan, or are you talking to
I'm
Cameron?
sorry, Ryan. Yes, I think possibly only you know what you've been involved in. And if there's nothing to fear, you know that. If there is something to fear, keeping this information to yourself and not sharing with the police is probably not going to help you.
I've shared everything. Coming on this show and talking about an unsolved murder, yeah.
I think
I'm
that
putting myself in danger, but I don't care. I think
that you know more than you think you do.
Well,
you know, I think with some help to reconstruct some things, and it's, you know, grief is very difficult, and having been through what you've been through and the manner in which it happened, but I really think if we can really sit down and help you reconstruct and break down some things timeline-wise, I think he has more information than he realizes that he has. And I say that because I don't think I think you may be blocking some things, but I think there's some things that you may not recognize the significance of, and working out all the players and all that. You may have some pieces to a jigsaw puzzle here that you're not aware of the significance of.
Right.
What do you think?
I agree completely. And this, the killer or killers may think you know more than you do, which makes you a threat to them.
Mm-hmm. And do it sooner rather than later, because these are very capable people of harming you.
I was, questioned. I brought in, twice by the detectives. But, for people to even think that I would know something and not give out the information, I don't care if even if I had to go to jail, for something I did, to bring someone to justice for killing my brother. Hell yeah. You guys don't know this is the hardest thing that I've ever had to deal with. And I'm just now starting to put my life back together. And this opportunity came along, so here I am. But to hold my brother, my big brother, and watch him die, and for people to think that I know something or I know more, right. not what you're saying, people where I live, to think that I know more and I'm not telling it, I mean, that's the worst feeling in the world. But people who know me, they know what's up, and that's all that matters, But yeah, anything I can do, we just don't have those resources. If this was the son of the mayor, I mean, there was a car involved, right? And there's security cameras on every other house in that neighborhood. There's traffic cameras on intersections that have way better resolution than a home security system. And they have the resources to do that, they just haven't done it. Because if it was somebody with power, son, that was murdered, then yeah. And the fact that we were the circle that we're involved with, my brother has tattoos and drugs, and it's like, oh, it's just another, person, whatever, kind of treated. That's the way I feel. That's the way it's been treated.
And that's also how I've felt this whole time. I mean, I feel like nobody cares to hear my side of the story. Like, I didn't get asked, I don't even think the news knew he had a daughter until I was like, yeah, like I'm his daughter. And they're like, oh, do you mind if we interview you? And that's hard because my dad was not that person. Those 3 years were not his whole life. He was amazing and loving, and I want people to know that my dad wasn't just this drug addict and that him dying shouldn't be important. And that's how it has felt this whole entire time.
Ryan received a picture. The male hand has a bullet cradled in the palm.
Maybe that's a warning, like, to shut up.
Around 9 a.m., a piece of a human leg washed up on shore at Buena Vista Lake.
But investigators have not announced any progress on finding out who it belonged to. Another gruesome discovery at the Kern River. Last month, a group of teens found a human arm inside a bag near Hart Park.
I saw a picture of the leg. I thought, oh my gosh, that's Bailey's leg.
I believe the arm belongs to Micah.
We're like on high alert. Oh my gosh, body parts are never found in Bakersfield or Kern County like that.
If DNA comes back and identifies Micah, we will still be stuck because that's just one tiny piece of the puzzle.
If she is alive out there somewhere, something really horrible is happening to her. I want my daughter to be alive, but I don't think she is.
Cheryl and Jane say they are awaiting the DNA test results to find out if that gruesome discovery is related to their children's disappearance. In fact, it's possible that information may come in any minute. In fact, we have staff monitoring their phones right now backstage in case that call comes in while we're here. So I was just telling them that the phone has not jingled yet. But we are monitoring it in case they do call, and if so, we will stop what we're doing. We'll get you guys to the phone and find out what we find out.
I think Ryan does have bits and pieces that he knows, and it is very dangerous. There has been an individual up there that has reached out to my granddaughter. Ryan received a picture with a poem and a bullet in their hand a week ago.
This individual contacted me on the phone. The poem wasn't sent to me by him. Reached out to me, asked how everything was doing. This guy was a friend at one point. We knew Micah. He's like, yeah. We didn't know that girl Bailey. I said, yeah, but Micah knew Bailey. We know Micah. That's the connection, first and foremost. Now, all that other stuff, we didn't talk about that, but I mean, there's more connections than just that. But he kind of asked, that was kind of weird. Why is your mom in the media talking about this? Like, just leave it alone and you'll heal. Like, no. And then I got a picture sent to me from somebody that said that that he wrote this poem, and they just thought it was weird, and I couldn't make it out, so I forwarded it to her. And it basically sounds like he wants to talk. And this person is confided, and there's another things I found out when he was in jail, that he almost admitted it to somebody. I heard that he did admit it to one individual, but that's just hearsay. But
and there was a picture, a drawing with it?
It's his hand holding it. And when Ryan asked, I asked Cheryl to help me because the handwriting was illegible.
Chicken scratch.
And Cheryl, very good at reading handwriting, wrote it out and sent it back to me. When I blew it up, the male hand has a bullet cradled in the palm.
Like, maybe that's like a warning, like to shut up.
Candace?
I see that as a threat, a message. And now I understand why you're frightened.
Yeah, he's reached out to her on social media.
Did you receive some kind of threat?
No, I didn't receive threats, but he just told me, it was like probably a week after my dad had died, he told me that he was friends with my dad, and that if I ever need him to pick me up and take me somewhere, that he can do that because he has to act like my dad now, and that I live with my grandma. And then he was like, you live with your grandma, right? And then he was like, maybe I should come by and see you sometime. And then I was like, I mean, this is a week after my dad had died. I wasn't thinking about that guy.
Have you shared this story with law enforcement?
Yes. I've given them every piece of information that we've all dug up.
I don't find that outreach to her insignificant.
No, I think Candace and I both feel that certainly there's a reason that you've been contacted, and it's to let you know that he knows.
Okay, I need to read this statement from the police department. This is from Sergeant and Public Information Officer Brian Holcomb of the Bakersfield Police Department. Detectives have followed up on several leads. However, there have been no suspects named in the case and no arrests made. The devotion of these mothers has affected and inspired even the most seasoned criminal investigators who are exhausting all legal means to bring justice and closure to the families of these victims. We ask anyone with information to contact Kern Secret Witness at 661-322-4040. That's 661-322-4040. And I'm going to have that number on drphil.com and our Facebook page and Twitter and everywhere else that we have our social platforms. But before we end this, let me say to all of you that while this has been going on, while this discussion has been going on, we've had the numbers up for people to call if they have any information about this whatsoever. Because again, people sometimes just don't know what they know. Sometimes they'll know something and they don't know that that's that one little piece that makes everything else make sense. And so I really, really appeal to all of you that may know something you've heard, something you heard that someone heard. It may seem insignificant to you, and please we don't need prank calls and all of that. But if you have something that you think may be of interest, then call this secret witness line, 661-322-4040, to share information. And you kind of put on the scale of trauma that people go through in their lives, and losing a loved one is obviously very high on that trauma scale. Losing someone suddenly is a notch up on that trauma scale. Losing someone suddenly and violently is even a notch higher on that trauma scale. And it takes a certain kind of help and support and intervention to help accommodate to that and adjust to that. And there is a place in America that I work with and have great confidence in called Onsite. And Onsite is the worldwide leader in putting together workshops for people that have been through trauma and people that just really need help in getting through those difficult times. And they're just a trusted source for anyone struggling with these sorts of things. And they're located just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, on a beautiful campus, and it's a very nurturing and helpful place. And I've talked with them, and I want to extend to each and every one of you, if there's a point in time where you want to go there and really kind of put yourself in the shop and help heal yourself and get yourself to a point of accommodation with this, I want to make that offer to you and make it available to you when it's the right time. So just know that that's available, and I want it to help heal you at the right time. So just know that we have that available. Okay? We'll be right back.
Coming up, the DNA results come in. What it means for these moms.
Gives a whole new dimension to what that murderer has done to our family.
Before we go today, I want to take a moment to thank Meadows Behavioral Health Care. Now, they have been instrumental in offering some of our guests over the years not only resources regarding domestic violence, but also a safe exit plan out of the abuse. Now, for safety reasons, we don't talk about their involvement in a specific show in case the abuser wants to track down his or her victim. But today, away from any of those specific stories or cases, I wanted to take time to really thank them. Now, Willow House is one of their specialized programs specifically designed to help women who struggle with relationship and intimacy disorders, as well as co-occurring conditions such as addiction, trauma, and self-harming. Now, Willow House is the only all-women's program that address one or any combination of these issues. And joining us is Irene Jacobs. She is the program director at Willow House. Irene, I want to thank you for all of your help along the way. This is a really important program that y'all have, so I can't thank you enough for everything that you've been doing.
Yeah, thank
you. When women come to Willow House, you guys don't treat a specific disorder or trauma. You treat the entire person and everything about their life, right?
Yes, we do. And Dr. Phil, thank you so much for having me on the show today. And we work very closely at looking at all the variables that contribute to a setup of domestic violence relationship or high conflict relationship. And, you know, we are the experts in female relationship issues, and my team, they are very well trained and very skilled at untangling toxic attachment and betrayal bonds, and really working with women to develop a strong sense of self and really transforming their lives and creating healthy relationships for themselves and for their future.
Yeah, and that's where it starts, guys. It's building a healthy relationship with yourself first, and then you can build from there. But it starts with that relationship with yourself. And you're right. And you guys have had great results and continued good success with all that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of my guests today. A special thanks to our affiliate reporter from KGET TV, Olivia LaVoice. Thank you so much. Former police detective Steve Cardian. Thank you, Steve. Candace DeLong and Miles Adcoxon on site. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
After Micah Polson-Bake vanished, detectives are now saying his case is a homicide.
This news comes after a private lab matched Polson-Bake's DNA to that of the arm.
Dr. Phil, we wanted to give you a brief update about events that have happened since we filmed at your show. We received the rapid DNA analysis for the human remains. The arm did belong to Micah. That, of course, was devastating. Gives a whole new dimension to what that murderer has done to our family.
Still looking for Bailey, still trying to find answers.
Dr. Phil, thank you so much to you and your team. Without you, we don't know what we would have done.
If you have a tip, please call in. The number for Secret Witness is 661-322-4040.